See my screen. Let's see, here we go. So today, the whole purpose of today's training, for those who don't know me, my name is Sergeant Esmu. I am one of the healthcare recruiters from the Valencia office. If you're not my recruit, so to speak, you work with either my team, Sergeant Wen, as a recruiter, Sergeant Delat, Sergeant Wheeler, and we have a new recruiter, Sergeant Schrader. So those are other recruiters from the station. And we have today Lieutenant Godinez, who's gonna be giving her experience from DCC and BOLC. The agenda for today, really straightforward. Again, introduction, opening remarks. We're gonna go kind of around the room here real quick. And then we're gonna talk about the process. Again, I'll review the process. I know I've talked to you about what happens next, from getting orders, what that process looks like, and then prepping for actually going for training. Like, what does that look like? What do you need to do? How much money do you need to have in place? Did you know you needed to have money to go to training? Maybe your recruiter didn't tell you. So this is the opportunity to kind of crosstalk and get some of that information. And then the logistics of actually going to training, uh, Lieutenant Godinez's experience and questions, and then everybody will get an email by next week for just like suggestions for additional training and what did you like and didn't like about today's session. So my commander, I guess, couldn't make it, so it's gonna go straight to me. We're gonna go around the room here and see who's on the call. So I'm gonna pick you. Hopefully your mic is working. And if not, then I guess you got away from not speaking today. So let me see who we have here. So let's start with Aaron, top of the list. Tell us just what job did you sign up for? And where are you currently living? Really is kind of what you need to just put out so everybody has an idea where you're at and what position did you apply for and get selected.
Yeah, so I'm Erin, and social worker, so 73 Alpha, clinical social worker. I'm actually currently in North Carolina near my family, but was also living in Hawaii for 4 years and was in California as well. But I'm currently right now in North Carolina.
All right, thank you. Next, we have King.
Hi, my name's Katie. Sorry, let me get my thing working. I'm a nurse. I got selected for 66 Sierra, which is a critical care position. So I live in Ventura County, and that's pretty much it.
Thank you. Then we have Monica Yee.
Hi, I'm Monica. I'm a clinical pharmacist by training. I'm selected to still be a pharmacist. I live in LA. I've pretty much lived in LA my whole life, and I currently practice as an advanced practice pharmacist in East LA, in a clinic.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Mitchell.
Hi, good evening, everyone. Mitchell. I was selected for the clinical psychology track. I'm still a student, but yeah, excited to hear about everyone's experiences.
Thank you.
Oh, and I also live in LA.
LA, all right, local. Then we have, let's start, there's two Zach Bell. Let's go Zach Bell first.
Hi, I'm Zach Bell. I'm going to be taking the job of a biochemist, and I live in Okinawa, Japan.
Awesome. Thank you. And then finally, Zach Leffler.
My name's Zach Leffler. I'm going to be an ICU nurse, so 66 Sierra. And then I am located in Tehachapi, California.
Awesome. Thank you. So just a little bit around, so everybody's very diverse as far as, we don't have like 10 pharmacists on here. So a very diverse group. Everybody's doing something different, but you all have to go through the kind of the same experience, which we're going to talk about. So again, my portion to review what's happening for the ones who are currently in the process from receiving those orders. So if you already signed all your paperwork, you signed your contract, your recruiter submitted it, it was verified and approved. This year was different. It took approximately 2 days from the time we submitted everything and it got approved for people to start getting that email notification saying, hey, we need, congratulations, welcome to the team. Last year, it took about 30 to 45 days before people got notification. So expect a quick response based on the first two that we submitted. They got an email within 2 days. So for those who are waiting on signing your contract, once that paperwork gets approved, you should get a pretty quick response if we're going by the same timeline as the first two that we had this year. So make sure you respond to that email right away. Don't sit on it. Go ahead and send them what the information they want. They want to verify your, address. Are you married? Do you have kids? Like there's a list of questions that go with it. So as soon as you respond to that email, they'll start working on assignments and dates and where you're going to be going, the whole process. So that's what's going to happen. Everybody's scroll got approved recently. I know it took about 2 months or longer for some of you, but I think everybody now has been approved. So you should be working with your recruiter if you haven't already to get those documents submitted. So that's kind of where we're at as far as that process. Any questions specifically to turning in paperwork and getting that email notification?
I have a really quick question. For the email notification after, is the email the same as them reaching out to talk about assignments, or is that later?
It's basically a two-part. It's gonna be say, hey, congratulations.
Yeah.
Send us this information first, and then once we get this, either you'll have a group that's a certain person that's gonna contact you about assignments after the fact, but that is the first like action. You'll send that email, and that person's gonna walk with you training dates for DCC and BOLC, and there's usually another person that's gonna work the assignments from HRC, Human Resource Command.
Thank you.
Yep. And I always send that email to your recruiter because we don't get those notifications. They keep us out of the loop. So just forward that email to your recruiter so that way we know that, hey, they finally contacted you and we're tracking that it's moving along the process. All right. So let's talk about prepping for DCC and BOLC. Like what was the experience for Lieutenant Godinez and kind of got that notification? I'm getting ready to go to DCC. I have a date. What that process, what should they be doing? What was your experience? Kind of walk us through that part of it.
So my experience is a little bit unique. I joined the Army through a special program. I'm getting my doctorate in physical therapy, and the Army has a partnership with Baylor University. So I'm here at Fort Sam, full-time student and officer. So a lot of my path to DCC and BOLC really came through my program. But I did work with the local recruiting office, the one there in Valencia, and I had some help from the from Edwards Air Force Base with moving. I actually reached out to them to help schedule my move because I knew I was going to be stationed here at Fort Sam following my time at DCC, and BOLC is here at Fort Sam as well for AMED. So y'all will be coming here too. So if you have questions when you get here, please feel free to reach out and I'm happy to help. As far as like what to expect and kind of what to prepare, the biggest piece of advice that I have is get your uniforms before you come. From my experience, they had like one morning where they took everyone out to get uniforms and get a few other things. You had like maybe 20 minutes to grab everything that you can, try things on. Some things they didn't have the right sizes. you just have what you have there. Fort Sill's kind of small as far as the resources that are available for uniforms. So if you have the opportunity to go ahead of time, I would recommend getting at least two. And at like 2 full uniforms, get name tapes, all that if you can. PTs, you're going to be in PTs a lot. Anytime you're not in class or, going to the DFAC to get food or anything like that, or walking, I'll get to that later, but you're pretty much hanging out in your PTs. So you want some that you can kind of lounge around in. You're not authorized to wear civilian clothes while you're there. So you're in PTs or you're in your duty uniform. There's no in between there. So I would recommend like getting a couple before you go, just so you don't really have to put up with all of that chaos. They do set appointments for all of your medical appointments. You're in processing medical appointments at DCC. They'll do it at BOLC too. So if something falls in the cracks there, you're going to be fine. Same with your CAC. You'll get your CAC there too. But what I would recommend, everyone's going to tell you this, every single piece of paper that the Army gives you, make a copy, like keep a copy because it might get lost somewhere. And we just kind of saw that like happen along in the process. I can't tell you, I think I had like 11 copies of my orders and like they needed to go to everyone. So just make sure you're making and keeping copies like for your own record, upload it to your files, whatever you need to do, just hold on to those things. I would also say like you can pack pretty light going to DCC if that's like exactly where you're going first. I don't know if it was just my class. From what I've heard, they've continued to do this, but they issued us a ton of stuff, like a ton of gear while we were there. So if you don't feel the need like to bring a ton of stuff because they have a fully stocked like PX and commissary there, anything that you could need, whether it's snacks, toiletries, like anything. It's a mile walk from your barracks, but it's like on the weekends you have pretty much freedom to go down there and get whatever you need. So don't feel like you need to bring your whole life with you. If you do drive to DCC, if that's your option, you can bring as much as you need to, but just keep in mind that they're going to take your car keys and you won't have access to your car for the whole month that you're there. I'm trying to think if there's anything else. You will take an ACFT there. So try to, if you're not actively getting ready for that, I would suggest starting now. It's not for record, but I would still prepare for that because you'll be doing quite a bit of physical activity. You'll go to the range, you'll go do land nav, you'll be in the classroom a lot of the time, but you learn a lot of the Army basics and stuff. So just kind of, it's a really good way to kind of dip your toes into the water. And then you're going to be doing a ton of the same things in BOLC. It's just spread out a little bit longer. But like I said, there's so much redundancy that if anything like slips between the cracks, if you're worried about like any of your information or any of like the things that have to be done for your commissioning, it will for sure get done between DCC and BOLC. So don't fret there. San Antonio has everything that you could possibly need here too. So don't feel like you need to like pack your whole life for both of these things.
Question.
Yes.
All right, so I'm gonna back up a little bit, and then
Okay.
we'll have opportunity for people to ask questions on this section. So obviously uniforms. So uniforms, depending where you live, obviously there's gonna be some barriers if you're not close to a base, but just get with your recruiter. We try to figure out what's available closest to you, even if you're not in the state. We try to coordinate with other recruiters to at least go get you 2 sets. We always recommend 2 sets of uniforms at the minimum. This gives you an opportunity to try them on, like she said, and see what fits. And ordering those name tapes, if you decide to go with Velcro or you decide you want to sew them on, you can order this in advance. So you're not worrying about those items when you get there. And then anything else that you're missing, then obviously you can buy where you're there. But the uniforms is probably, like she said, probably the most important. You mentioned ID cards. So some of you might be able to get an ID card before you go to training. Some of you may not because there is a delay in the system. And if your name is not in the system yet, they can't give you an ID card. But in your experience, you didn't have a problem getting an ID card once you went to DCC?
So I got mine before DCC. I reported in about a month before
Okay.
DCC to my program, and they took us. It was my understanding, like, you need to have your orders, you need to be in the system. It took a little bit of time. We didn't do it right away. I think we waited like a week or two once I got here. Just like I said, it takes a little bit of time, but they make it a priority while you're there. You should be able to get it at DCC, no problem.
Okay. And the other thing, costs. How much did you think you spend on buying everything you needed for DCC?
Uniforms are pricey. I will, and as officers, we pay for the whole thing. Boots can be kind of pricey. You can check online. I found ones that I love, and like I watched for the sales, so I got Under Armour boots for like under $100, which is great. But find what works for you. Boots can range around, like I see them usually around 160, 180. Typically, the pants are, I want to say, because I just got like a new set recently. At least for the females, I think the males are similar. The pants are around like 50. Either the pants or the tops like 55 and 75 each, plus like the name tapes, like your patches. You need a PC. A lot of the other things aren't quite as expensive, but I would say like set aside probably $300-400 at least just for the uniforms, just in case. You might not need all of that, but it adds up quickly.
All right. Now questions from the group.
Dress uniforms, is that for BOLC?
So
Or
yes, and that's
no, they're expensive as well.
Super pricey. We did not wear dress uniforms while we were there. My program requires them. We have to wear ours for a lot of different things. So I went ahead and got mine while I was there with the expectation that we would need them for BOLC. But I think because people are coming from so many different places, they don't have access to, or like, I mean, Fort Sam, we have everything there as far as getting your dress uniform. Everything that you could need is there. So don't feel like if you don't get it, don't even try at Fort Sill. I'll tell you that. You don't worry about traveling with that because you're going to be at BOLC. I think it's a good while. I think it's like 3 months. So you have plenty of time to get everything done there. They have alterations and all of that too. So you won't need it at DCC. You probably won't even need it at BOLC. But if they say that you do, go ahead and just handle that at Fort Sam.
It was kind of my assumption that it was graduation, possibly, but I wasn't sure.
For my class,
Wasn't.
and we finished, I think, December 1st of 23. We didn't wear ours, and I haven't seen any of the other classes, but I don't know. We're all in the same building. We're all at the Medco building. I haven't heard anything as far as them having to wear their dress uniforms for graduation. We all just wore like the duty uniform or like OCPs.
Well, thank you.
You're welcome.
Anybody else about that portion of the process? Okay, so next, oh, go ahead, Zach.
Yes, just a simple question. Should I bring my laptop?
Yes, absolutely. At DCC, you will have several assignments. There's also a lot of resources that the cadre gives you as far as you have exams, you have papers, you have things that you'll be doing. They're really not, I wouldn't say like they're stressful. I mean, you have to put in some effort, but there's definitely assignments and resources that you're going to want to keep with you, especially as you go to your next duty station. So yes, bring your laptop.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. So let's talk about logistics from you leaving and getting to DCC. You said obviously you drove, other people might want to fly. Transportation, do you get reimbursed from you driving there? Did you get like how that process looks as far as getting to DCC?
So I'm going to kind of talk about how I got to Fort Sam because I had to go there first, and then everything else was kind of handled for me just because of my program. But once I got my orders, it was, I want to say, not that long before I left. I think it was like maybe 3 weeks before I left. And like I said, I called Edwards Air Force Base and I just said, you know, I've never done this before. Can someone please help me like facilitate my move? They were fantastic. They helped me. I barely did anything. They helped me fill out all of the paperwork. They had someone come out, pack up all my stuff and send it out here to San Antonio. They'll do that for wherever you're going. But they don't ship your car. If you're within the continental US, you have to drive it. But they will reimburse you. You have to get like 2 different way tickets for your car. One like with nothing in it, and then one with all of the things that you're traveling with. As far as like for me, they put me up for 10 days for house hunting, and that was reimbursed too. So you have time when you're going to your first duty station, they'll do that for you. But it's recommended, you know, you show up to DCC. If you're not reporting to your first duty station before then, just report that day. I think you have until like 10 p.m. or midnight or something like that. You'll just show up there and then kind of go from there. But I know that if you're going TDY first, I'm not really sure what the process is like as far as moving all of your household goods. I think they hold on to it for you until you get to your first duty station, but don't quote me on that because I had a little bit of a unique experience. I came here first, was here for a month, then went to DCC, came back for BOLC, and I've been here ever since. So I don't know about that in particular, but that was my experience.
Okay. So for everybody on here, once you get those orders, that is your ticket to start doing things like coordinating transportation. So you would coordinate with our assistants on finding the closest military installation. It doesn't have to be Army. And you basically call them and coordinate, hey, I got orders, I'm moving here, this is my date, my report date, and you can coordinate moving your stuff through the local transportation company for whatever military installation you're closest to. And again, we'll walk you through that process once you have orders, but basically that's what happens for that portion of it as you prepare to move. Questions about moving? All right, easy enough. So we'll jump right in.
I'm sorry.
I'll go ahead, Aaron. Hey, this is what we're here for.
Well, so I've heard kind of different accounts of packing up your stuff and then it being in storage or something, or being sent somewhere, or it's staying in your apartment or your house, and then you get the BAH, and then it's later. Does it just depend on what exactly it says on your orders? Or is it one way when it's a direct commission? And
so you actually have the option. So if you decide, you're going to put everything in storage, then the moving company can still pick everything up from storage when it's the time to move. So you don't necessarily still have to be in your current, place of residence. Some people decide to pack everything up, and that way they're not paying rent or whatever. Sure. And then the moving company will get everything from that storage unit and pack it up and ship it. So it just depends on your situation, where you're at, what you're trying to do, but that is an option.
So if you're going overseas, like for instance, they would start the shipment to the overseas location when you're already in school?
Well, we have Sergeant Wynn on here. He's traveled overseas, moved his stuff. I don't know if he can talk about that process, but
he's
yes,
probably better for that than I am. But I will say, They will pick up your items from multiple locations. So I had items in storage and
okay.
at a house. And so as long as I want to say it's as long as it's within like 25 miles of each other, they'll pick it up from multiple locations. So don't worry about that. I don't know what the process is like after they pick up your
Sure.
things and like how soon you'll be reporting to that duty station if you're going TDY for these schools. But I think Sergeant Nguyen can probably answer those questions better than I can.
Yeah, I don't know if he's available to talk, but he is on the call.
Well,
But
if you
come
get a chance to talk to him, he's
Okay.
fantastic. He helped me with my whole process and dealt with like a million questions
Okay.
along the way. So very
Yeah,
helpful too.
I think my biggest concern is just pets. Not getting them watched. Like I have someone that can watch my pet, but I have one friend who went through BOLC years ago and said that they brought their cat to BOLC and it was fine and the hotel didn't care and whatever else, not DCC, but BOLC. And so I think just kind of coordinating if I'm in North Carolina and then I'm going to be at SIL, then I'm going to be in Texas, at what point could I possibly have my cat or not, and where to actually, like, do I take her with me and then just find someone to watch her in Fort Sill or North Carolina type of deal is probably my only concern.
You definitely can't have a pet at Fort Sill. I'll tell you
Right.
that. I don't know about BOLC. I would call if you know what I think we have like 3 different hotels on post where they put you up. If you know exactly which one you're going to be staying at, you can always call them and see what their policy is. But I haven't heard anything. I don't remember anyone from my BOLC class talking about that. So I'm not sure, but I'm sure that like you could find someone to either watch it here or do you know where your first duty station is?
No, my scroll was just released, so I'm signing the paperwork soon, but no, none of that yet. It's the thought of like driving across the nation, which is fine, and then do I have to drive across the nation again just to get my cat? So just kind of coordinating at a later date on what that would look like. Yeah.
Yeah, we owe you an answer on that one. It used to be when they, and several years ago, they used to put people in a hotel, and that's why people would bring their pets. And then they started putting them in the barracks. So
Okay.
then that went away. So it was, I think you're right. That was
Yeah.
kind of a thing. People were able to
Yeah.
sneak in
I
their
don't think
pets
they were
because
like sneaking it. I think they
it
like
was
were told that it was okay.
because
Yeah.
it was a hotel, and
Yeah.
obviously the hotel rules are different versus
Sure.
now you're in the barracks.
Okay.
Which actually kind of brings us into the question that's going to come up. Were you placed in a hotel for DCC and BOLC, or was it in barracks? Because that's a new thing.
Barracks for DCC. If you're not stationed in San Antonio, then you'll be put up in a hotel on base. I live here. This is like my home. So I was fine to stay here, like just in my home. I didn't have to stay on post or anything like that. But they put you up in a hotel at Fort Sam and you're going to be here. Like I said, I want to say it's like a 12-week course. It takes a bit of time. But from what I've heard, it's really comfortable and there's so much to do here in San Antonio. So it kind of, people enjoy it. You have a lot of freedom during BOLC for sure. A lot more than you will have at DCC. But it's fun. Like everything is what you make of it. If you really lean into learning as much as you can and just enjoying all of the things that you get to do during DCC that you probably won't do like while you're practicing at your first duty station, just lean into it. It's a lot of fun.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, let's talk about your overall experience with DCC first. Again, this is direct commissioning course, the first course that all you will be attending. 4.5-week course at Fort Sill, Oklahoma. Mine is preparing from, starting to exercise. If you haven't been exercising, obviously recommended. What about just that military, like learning the military lingo, kind of walk us through just your overall experience in DCC, and then people can ask questions.
There's a ton of acronyms. They all get said all the time, so it takes a minute to kind of catch up. Our cadre, super, super patient. They really take the time to teach you the right way to do things. I think I was expecting it to be a lot like more harsh than it was. They're really firm, but they want you to do things the right way. They want to teach you the right way. Show up, you know, they're very clear about their expectations. If you're not early, then you're late. Everywhere like 15 minutes early. You're gonna be up early most days. There's also fire guard, so you're kind of, I want to say it's like maybe once a week, and you're there, I think, for 3 or 4 weeks as well. So like once or twice a week, if you get like rotated in, and depending on the size of your class, you're going to have a shift in the middle of the night to like clean and watch the front desk and stuff like that. That's a good time. But aside from that, it's a lot of time in the classroom. You spend a lot of time, like you learn how to march, you learn how to walk in formation and do things like that. You go, like I said, you go do land nav, you go to Seaburn, you get tear gassed. That's fun too. You get all of your medical appointments. It's really just like a very soft initiation into the Army. You go to the range, you like, it's not like anything too crazy. I'm trying to think if there was anything that like particularly was challenging. You, like I said, you spend a lot of time in the classroom. You have tests, you have papers, things like that too. But it's a good mix of being inside and outside. And over the weekend, you do have the freedom to, you know, go explore the post a bit more. You can't leave, but you can walk like down to the PX or the commissary, and there's some things to do down there. A lot of people would like, I was there, I think in September, people were watching like football games and, you know, having pizza parties and stuff like that on the weekends. So there's like a mix of both. It's not like you're just trapped in your barracks room when you're not doing stuff with the cadre.
Questions?
Yeah, I just had a couple questions. I mean, sorry if I'm going back a little bit. But the two vehicles, so me and my wife, we have 2 vehicles and a young little child. So I know you said if we're in the continental United States, they don't compensate if the vehicles are shipped. So I was just wondering if that, you know, is that just something that we have to go out and do on our own? Just because, I mean, I plan on driving one of the vehicles, but my wife and child are probably going to fly. That way, you know, don't have to do the long road trip with the child. So I was just wondering about that. And then my second question was, is BOLC actually 12 weeks now, or has that been shortened? I know that they were talking about a shortened course, I think 6 or 7 weeks.
So, Sergeant Esme, do you want to talk about the car situation, and I can talk about the BOLC situation?
Yeah, so I never traveled outside of the US, so I've always been stateside. So every time I move, I have moved from across the country. So the Army will reimburse you for the vehicles. Same thing, obviously. I'm married, I have kids, 2 cars. So in the past, I either towed one vehicle and family with me. This either way, you'll get reimbursed for mileage for both vehicles. You'll get per diem for all dependents. So and then you'll get reimbursed for anything that you're renting to move. And they're also on a totally separate subject. You also have the option of moving your own stuff, and the Army will reimburse you for your expenses. This is a class for another day, but some people like doing that because they make a lot of money moving their own stuff. Again, a class for another day. But either way, you'll get reimbursed for moving on your orders. They'll say, you know, what you're authorized to move, at least stateside. For overseas, I've never went overseas. I know some of the people in my office have, but they also cover costs. I'm not quite sure about the vehicles, but they can ship them overseas as well. But I'll give you an answer on that portion of going overseas. And what was the other one? BOLC?
So I know that there's a short course, but I think that's more for people who are in the National Guard or the reserves and who are like already serving. I could be wrong, and there could be other ways that you do the short course, but I'm pretty sure it's like 12 weeks if you're just going through the standard BOLC.
Yes, there are different variations of it depending on your branch as well. So like if you're a student, some of the students they do a combination of DCC and BOLC all combined in 8 weeks. Like it's like an expedited one. So your BOLC might look different based on your actual job. But we can verify, we could actually find the actual course date. So I owe you an answer on that one, on the length.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. Other questions about DCC? Nobody's gonna be yelling at you. You work out every day. Probably not. Not from what I heard, but
It's
DCC.
like working out. You like kind of roll around in the grass a little bit and practice stuff for the ACFT. It's not too crazy at all. But there is a gym in the barracks that you're authorized to use. There's another gym that's like a little ways away that you can use on the weekends. There's pickleball there if you want to play pickleball or basketball or something like that. So, but yeah, start training for the ACFT. Know that you're probably not going to get a lot of exercise there unless you seek it out too. And unless someone does something very silly or very wrong, you will not get yelled at.
For the ACFT, is at the very end, I would assume.
It's right in the middle.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm assuming you have to pass in order to pass DCC. Like you need to get a certain, I would assume.
I
don't know.
I think
I
she said it wasn't for record.
Everyone in my class graduated DCC. Do I know if everyone passed the ACFT? I don't. Again, it's not for record. So, but I would take this ACFT as if it were, because it's going to give you a really clear idea of what you need to like work on, or like if you're in a good place, keep doing what you're doing. It's going to give you a good baseline, but I wouldn't stress about it too much.
All right. If no more further questions about DCC, we'll jump into BOLC. Looks like you have more freedom. Kind of walk us through that portion of the training.
So I want to say like the first 2 or 3 weeks, you're really in an auditorium, whether it's in BOLC, which is in the Medco building where all the schools are and where you'll be the majority of the time, or you're going to be at like the NCO Academy just down the hill a little bit. So just depending on availability. So that's where if like any of your in processing, if any of that has fallen through the cracks, if you need to go get your ID card, if you need to schedule medical appointments, if you know you got your vision checked and you need glasses or anything like that and they didn't come through during DCC, you'll get them during BOLC. There's like plenty of time for all of that. And like I said, I think the first at least 2, if not 3 weeks, you're just kind of sitting there waiting for things to happen, getting paperwork done and things like that. After that, you're assigned to a platoon. You go to that classroom every day, and that's in the Medco building. It just depends on your cadre. You could be there, you know, my platoon liked to start early so we could end early. So we came in at 7:30 and we left by like 3 or 4 in the like afternoon. So it just depends. And some platoon instructors are faster than others. Some emphasize other things. It just really depends. But you spend a lot of your time there. You learn like troop leading procedures, just like a lot of administrative tasks that officers have. in a classroom setting, and then they kind of prepare you to go into the field. So for the field, you're going to be going to Camp BOLC, and you're going to go there for 3 weeks. The first 2 weeks, and you're not there like every single day. You come home on the weekends or like back to the hotel. You get hot meals for dinner for the first 2 weeks, and then the last week is like just MREs and stuff like that. But you do land nav, you go to the range and you qualify, and I say that loosely, just it's not for record either there. But with the M4 and the pistol, I'm trying to think, you do land nav again, way easier course than DCC. It's a self-correcting course, so don't worry about that either. And that I should go back a little bit. DCC is day into night, and then BOLC is like morning into, so night into day. It's easy. It's very, very easy. So no need to stress there. There's like some skills that you have to pass there. With a team, you have to be able to lift like 200-pound like body, but it's for review. You learn like the different roles of like medical care. So role 1, role 2, role 3, role 4, and you kind of like you role play through all those things. That last week is like the most fun week. Like you're actually doing a bunch of things. You're actually playing like part in your role as a provider, and you get to see like what you'd actually be doing kind of in like a more combat or deployed environment. So it's super fast paced. It's super fun. Those days go by quick. But at the end, like you kind of go through a whole simulation. It sounds like none of you are Meadows, or so it's not really like going to be super, super applicable to you, but it's something that you can appreciate and you will see in the future anyway. So it's, I really enjoyed that part. Going to the field was my favorite part of BOLC. So am I missing anything? Any other questions?
Questions about BOLC? See, I see wheels spinning. I'm thinking. All right, sounds doable. Nothing crazy.
Nothing crazy, and you're gonna meet like such a wide variety of people because you know, like we're all like in the medical part of the Army, so you're gonna be meeting people with like so many different jobs and like roles that they play. It's super interesting, and it's a great opportunity to network with those people. The Army's big, but you run into people, you know, all over the place, and especially at Fort Sam, everyone comes back here. So you will be seeing each other again, especially like for Captain's Career Course and things like that too. So take the opportunity to like meet people, make friends, make connections, because I think that will pay off later too.
All right. Well, that's simple enough. Some things I'm gonna recommend for most of you is, you know, that everyone wants to figure out. Some of you have military backgrounds in the sense that you work in the military population, understand the military a little bit better than others. Some is completely new to you. So obviously, if you want to get some education as far as like simple stuff like rank structure, how do you address people, how, you know, how to wear the uniform, common courtesies, like all that stuff is something we can continue to do while you guys wait to leave for training. And there's also some classes online that I will share with the group that you can do independently to just kind of, you know, start thinking about those things as opposed to just showing up and it's like the first time, like, do I salute this guy? You're gonna learn how to salute. How does that look like? Enlisted versus officers. So I'm just kind of thinking out loud here for the future. But yeah, that's pretty much all I wanted to focus on today's call. So if you guys don't have any other questions, expect an email by next week, a small kind of like a survey, just figuring out what you guys want to see more of for the next training. We're trying to do this at least once a month, depending on people's schedules, and just whatever we can add value to you guys before you leave for training. I think I'm gonna ship out at least an Army shirt for everybody if you don't have one or didn't get one, for the ones who are not in the area. And next time, everybody can be wearing the same shirt. We can take a picture of this for the team. But
Is that
yeah,
sarcasm?
say it again.
Is that sarcasm? I didn't know.
Nah,
Oh, for real.
we're
Okay.
trying to
Alright.
create the Future Soldier program. At least what is something that I've always
Sure.
done, and it's hard with officers just because everybody's dispersed and different schedules, so it makes it difficult. And then right now we have like 11 or 12 future officers waiting to ship for training for the office at least. And then as you guys ship off, then the pool is going to get smaller, and then we had like 3 people or 2 people, and then it doesn't really make sense at that point to make it as a group.
Mhm.
But yeah, I think we have a bunch of stuff you guys need. I got hoodies too. I got Army branded hoodies that I need to get rid of. So if you send me your size, we can mail it out to you wherever you're at. So including Japan, I think we can make it work. But
I have one last question. I'm sorry.
Go ahead. Nope.
When the time frame from getting that email and getting your school dates and assignments and everything, do you have kind of an estimate on what that looks like as far as how long you're waiting until DCC? Like online, I saw there was only 3 school dates this year. I didn't know if that was just fiscal year and maybe there are more in the winter. But
Yes. So you have a say-so in this process, not for specifically like the Baylor students, because they're on a crunch time. They have to get to training before school starts. But for all of you here, for most of you, they're gonna tell you what the training date said, like the earliest one they have, and it's pretty. No, there's more than 3.
okay,
But
cool.
you can be leaving if they tell you March, we got March, April available, then you say, oh, that's too quick. Uh, you can delay it some, I will tell you, but the only issue I will tell you for those who are planning on delaying it for whatever personal reasons, maybe a wedding is happening or something that you need to really, really be part of, is the assignments. The assignments can basically they can go from like 4 or 5 assignments, and if you wait longer, then that list can probably go to like 1 or 2 spots because they're trying to fill as they go. I had one person about a year ago did that. She delayed her process for a year for different reasons, and then they only gave her one option. So of course she took it. But no, if there's more than 3 dates, you can ship quicker to training is really on you. So if they tell you March and April and you're ready to go, then take it. But if for whatever reason you need to delay it for whatever reason, you do have a say. So they're not just going to give you a date and be like, okay, here's your date, get ready to go. So you do have you can go back and forth with them, but don't delay it so long. I mean, if you have to, got it, personal reasons, you can. They'll hold your job until then, but you do have some say.
Okay. Yeah, I didn't know if there was a trend of classes just being full, like, oh, the next 2 classes are typically full, if it's a long wait or not, or if the classes are big. I didn't even think to ask how big the classes are. Like for DCC, I'm assuming fairly big.
How many members are in your class, if you remember?
So for us, DCC, I think we only had like 75 people, but there was over 300 people for BOLC.
Oh.
So it varies. And I've heard that they've had bigger DCC classes. I went at kind of a weird time. I went in September, but that was based off of like everything was coordinated for my school. So they had a plan for everything. But I think it just depends on how many people they're planning on having there and the amount of cadre that they have assigned there too currently. So could be 75, it could be 200. I don't know. But the barracks can support that too. They have a huge staff there.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. So I don't have anything else to add. I want to say thank you to Lieutenant Godinez for taking time out of her day to talk to you guys about her experience. We appreciate it. And I'll stay here on the line for the next 9 minutes if anybody has questions of me. But if you don't have any other questions, then that's all I have. I appreciate you for showing up and attending today's meeting.
When you all come out to San Antonio, or if you have any questions about DCC or BOLC, or when you're here, please feel free to reach out. I'm happy to help if needed. So Sergeant Esmu can give you my email address if you have any other questions or just recommendations for San Antonio or anything like that. But y'all will have a great time. Enjoy it, and good luck.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Good luck, everyone.